Hi, welcome back to the garden. Now I was asked again what kind of mulch we use. This time of year is a really good time to talk about it. Right now is the time you want to start laying your mulch in, getting ready for spring. I know, and it's not even winter yet. Pretty close. That's funny, when we put this new piece of fence up just the other day, there weren't hardly any leaves on the ground yet. And it's already started to backfill. Those are leaves I don't have to move. But we got a ton out here. What kind of mulch do I use? It's whatever organic material I can get. The ground wants to stay covered, whether it's with some kind of mulch or whether it's with weeds or grass or something else. Now, why does it need to stay covered? When I started this a very long time ago, and it wasn't by choice, it's because I needed somebody to help hoe the weeds. They didn't care about covering the ground. And after I started doing this for myself, I thought there had to be a better way than just weeding. So I went looking for some chemicals. Then I found leaf mold. Then I found roof stout. Then I found wood chips, the back to Eden method. And as I started learning, I started changing the way I see things. You know, and if you want to make a change the way you do things. You want to make a big change the way you see things. Then I came across Dr. Elaine Ingham. And it opened my eyes to what's really going on in your garden. And all of these talk about keeping your ground covered. So I thought, okay, mulch. Throw some mulch down, we plant in the mulch, we're good to go. Well, it's not exactly how it works. So your ground is made up of dirt, and that dirt is made up of different sized particles of rock: sand, silt, and clay. The particles of clay are so small you can't even feel them. Same with silt. Now sand you can feel. So why is he talking about sand, silt, and clay and putting wood chips in a wheelbarrow? Well, the ground wants to stay covered. The ground is not only made up of dirt, sand, silt, and clay, it's made up of life. And that life turns that dirt into soil. And the soil is what you want to plant in. And by covering the ground, you promote that life. You help feed that life. We want to cover the ground 4 inches thicker. The reason we want to promote the life in the soil, that's what makes all of those nutrients plant soluble. The bacteria and the fungus, the micro critters, they create the structures that allows the water to absorb and to flow through the soil. Then you have your bigger life that eats the smaller life, and it makes all of those nutrients plant soluble. And what kind of mulch do I use? I just mix it all together. When the trees give me leaves, we get leaves, leaf mold. When I can get wood chips, I put that on there. The greener the wood chips, the better. But I'll use sawdust. It all breaks down. And it doesn't matter what order you put it in. You put some chips down first. You put some leaves down first. You can put hay down first. When you go to plant, we're going to pull that back down to soil. And that'll help mix it together. How many pages in a book to make 4 inches? Those leaves are going to break down very quickly. I look at this as sort of a cold compost. If we went up 3 feet, then it would heat up. You come in with a little bit of hay on top, we're good to go. And I got all those other leaves that need to come in here. We've come quite a little ways since we started this project. You work at it a little each day, You can get it done too. So to answer your question, what kind of mulch do I use? I use whatever organic material I can get my hands on. The thing about the hay and straw and being sprayed, that is a concern. My hay, it's not a concern because I know the gentleman that bales it. And I also know he wouldn't spend a dime to spray anything. And this has been out here breaking down for a while. And we got some seeds that blew up on top. They started growing, and if this was sprayed, that wouldn't be growing. And you can see it's kind of trashy, which is just fine for my mulch. The other thing we like to use in the compost pile and in the mulch is just regular yard clippings. When you mow your grass, just pile that up, let it dry a little bit, sort of like hay. Now if you put it down green right after you mow, it's gonna get hot, even a very small pile, because it's got a lot of moisture in it. But you let that dry out just a little bit, and then you just add it to your mulch just like regular. One tip about using wood chips or fresh mown grass that hasn't dried out yet, you don't want to get those too close to the actual stem of your plant. Your wood chips, they're chips. And if you put too much right around the stem, you can damage that stem. And if you put fresh grass that hasn't cooled off yet, you can actually burn your plants. One of the ways the deep mulch actually works in your garden, by keeping it covered, it retains that moisture. And that life, that microlife, the bacteria and the fungus, they need that moisture to move around. And that way when your plants photosynthesize, create sugars which go down into the roots to attract the bacteria and fungus to break down the minerals that the plant actually needs in that area. Those bacteria and fungus can take those little rivers and byways and get to the plant. A huge majority of that life, the micro critters, middle-sized critters, the bigger critters, all happen right there at the root zone. And that's also the reason we cut and drop. We leave the roots in from the plants that have died back from frost or that are done. We leave those roots there because it's got the colonies of micro critters there. Every time you yank that root up, you disturb that. There's no point in doing that. You just cut it, drop it, that carbon goes back on the ground, becomes part of that cycle, and then we just cover it back up with whatever mulch we can get our hands on, whether it's leaves, hay, grass, wood chips, any of it is good. And what proportions do I put down? Whatever I get my hands on. We're not tilling this in. If you till it in, that creates all kinds of problems. Now the other thing that you want to watch out for, you don't want to pack it down. So if you got some bigger pieces and smaller pieces, it's better. You want that air in there. Everything that's good in your garden is aerobic. When you get anaerobic, no air, that's when the bad critters start coming in. Compaction layers, when you till, you get a compaction layer. Out in a healthy environment, those roots will go straight on down, 3, 4, 5 feet, depending on what species it is. And you can have lots of different plants right next to each other because the nutrients are part of the soil. And when that plant has all the nutrients it needs, it's healthier, it produces better, and is more pest resistant. If you want to make a change in your garden, change the way you do things. But if you want to make a big change in your garden, change the way you see things. I've kind of given you the Crib Notes version of the life in the soil and why we put the mulch down. My recipe for mulch, whatever organics I can get my hands on, put it in 4 inches minimum. To start with, I'd put it in a foot or a little bit more. It breaks down very quickly. And you'll see the bigger critters, you'll see the worms, but you won't see the life that makes it all possible for your plants. You can do this too. And until next time, remember, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and God bless you. Come on, let's plant.
Let's go plant garden.